citizen band. Their slogan was, "We come to work." That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come in here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas, too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people have lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption, they lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we've took 4 pay cuts, and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got, a lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. I'm not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself blood pressure or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor's allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old, and I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for.
I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough. They adapt. But only can do so much when your politicians are ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not going to let Detroit be erased, bulldozed to where. We're going to fight to the bitter end. Detroit going to survive.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
Hey, friends and neighbors, good Tuesday. It is Tuesday, February 23rd. So good to see you today. Here we are on the Bill Press Show, ready to go live with you across the great land of ours on your local progressive talk radio station, on Free Speech TV, and on TawkrTV. Thank you for joining us today, and don't forget, we really feel your presence when you chime in. You can do so by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS, or send us your comments on Twitter at PP Show, or on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Yes, indeed. Today, February 24, we are one day closer to shutting down the Department of Homeland Security. Yeah, as crazy as it sounds, after we get more and more threats from Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, who are behind the attacks, we think, in Paris and in Copenhagen. We get warnings from Al-Shabaab from Kenya, who are behind the attacks, or behind the call for attacks this weekend on the Mall of America and other malls around this country. Despite of those growing security threats, the Republican plan on how to deal with it is to shut down the Department of Homeland Security, responsible for protecting our homeland. They say, Republicans say, it would be no big deal. Get it? They would shut down TSA, the Coast Guard, the Secret, FEMA, the Border Patrol, and did I mention Coast Guard, and other protective agencies. Republicans say, no big deal. We'll shut it down, but those people are all essential services, so they will still go to work anyway. They just won't get paid for it. And what I want to know is, how many members of Congress are going to go to work for one day without getting paid? Hell, we pay them to do nothing every day. At any rate, it is outrageous, but it looks like that's where we are heading. We'll talk about it this morning and a whole lot more. And take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. Thanks for being with us.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
my beauty,
my power,
my life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Terrorist threats increase, and Republicans want to shut down the Department of Homeland Security. That's what passes for leadership, I guess, here in Washington these days. Doesn't pass for intelligence. Hey, hello, everybody. What do you say? It is Tuesday, February 23rd. Hello, 24. Hello, hello. Great to see you today, and we welcome you to the program, The Bill Press Show. We are here in Washington, D.C., bringing you the news of the day from around the country, around the globe, as well as here in the nation's capital. And we look forward to talking to you about what it all means to you. You know how to do so. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show, on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This Tuesday, Congress back in town today. They sort of, loped around yesterday. The Senate was in session. Congress, the House doesn't go back really until today. And the big challenge, of course, is whether they can get through the week and manage to continue funding for the Department of Homeland Security, or whether they are just going to let it die on Friday. The Senate Republicans yesterday tried again, Mitch McConnell, to get the House bill through the Senate, the House bill which would fund the Department of Homeland Security, but only after rescinding the president's 2 executive orders on immigration reform. The president said he would veto that legislation. He doesn't have to veto it. It didn't get through the Senate yesterday, and it won't. That's the 4th time that they have tried. They need 60 votes, and I think they got 47. So it's not just that Democrats filibustered it. It's just that a lot of Republicans, senators, have said they don't like this. Anyway, we got all that to talk about and a whole lot more here today with our team, Peter Ogburn and Lisa Murphy. Hello, guys.
Hello, Bill.
Hey, good morning.
Happy Tuesday.
Yes, indeed. Woohoo! Alicia Cruz on the phones. She is there to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And Cyprian Bowling off at a ball game somewhere probably early this morning. But Monty Kensler is here on the video cams that are keeping the lights going and the cameras on so that we can look at you on Free Speech TV and TawkrTV. There's still a lot of reaction, to the Oscars, Peter.
Yes, absolutely. No, it's still a big story.
I saw that something about the numbers weren't as good for the Oscars this year. They're still huge, right? Like 36 million, but which was down the lowest for 6 years, I think.
Geez.
I saw. I don't see the exact numbers in front of me. Yeah.
That's not good.
No.
That's not good at all.
Neil Patrick Harris did not bring him home.
It's also kind of a weird award season. I don't know that there were any movies that were just blowing people out of the water. There weren't a ton of movies that were blowing people out of the water. I think it was a relatively weak season.
The only one was American Sniper, and it didn't get anything.
Right.
So, but there's still talk about the Oscars and what people were doing, and there's a lot of talk about the speeches by people accepting. One of the talks, of course, one of the very first award given to J.K. Simmons for Best Supporting Actor for Whiplash. Conan O'Brien talked about his remarks last night.
During his acceptance speech, the winner for Best Supporting Actor, J.K. Simmons, told everyone to call their parents.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I tried to call my parents, but they were at the movies watching 50 Shades of Grey.
They wanted to know what it was all about, right?
Yeah, sure.
They want to try out that new hip.
Yeah, try this new approach. Liven things up in their sex life. Yeah. Build the dungeon in the basement. Here we are, 10 minutes after the hour now. Lots going on here. The twins are here today. You know who I mean. Arthur Delaney and Igor Volsky. That's what we call them. Jessica Taylor will come along a little bit later from The Hill. And then Hadas Gold from Politico on the continuing flap over Bill O'Reilly, started out by our good friend David Korn over at Mother Jones. We'll get to all of that, starting with DHS funding, but first...
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Speaking of the Oscars, Bill, we talked yesterday about how they had left Joan Rivers out of the tribute for all of the past actors or movie people, film people. Yesterday, the Academy offered up an explanation. They said, quote, Joan Rivers is among the many worthy artists and filmmakers we were unfortunately unable to feature in the in memoriam segment of this year's Oscars show. In other words,
why?
They didn't have time.
Oh, they had time.
They said they did.
How much more time would it have taken?
The memorial segment was over 5 minutes long.
Well, then take somebody else.
I'm not saying that, but this is their argument. They needed to keep it there, so they took Joan Rivers out. They did point out, however, that if you go to Oscar.com, you can view the memorial slideshow there, and she is featured in that.
Oh, no.
So
they got egg on their face on that one.
Yeah, they definitely do. Congratulations, Alaska. You are now the third state with legal marijuana. That vote happened late yesterday, and they have made it official. You can use legalized marijuana. Now, there's still a lot of wrinkles to iron out in terms of how they're going to sell it, but congratulations. That's another big win for pot in Alaska, of all places.
Yeah, I would have thought.
We thought it was going to be Vermont would be next.
It was going to be Vermont. And, you know, D.C. was one of those states that had recreational marijuana, but that's been taken away from us.
We'll get it
for
back.
now.
Yeah, right.
For now. And Easter is right around the corner, and you know how you can tell? It's because the ticket lottery for this year's White House Easter egg roll is open. You can go to recreation.gov.
It's just like Powerball. It's $1 a ticket. No.
They don't sell it. You do have to give them your email and log in, and then you get to go. I say this because I did it yesterday. You go in and you register how many adults, how many kids, and then they give you a list of like 6 different windows of times that you would be able to go. So you have until Thursday of this week to enter the lottery.
All right.
I would suggest you don't do it because I've done it and I don't want you ruining my odds. Stay away from recreation.gov and don't mess up my chance of winning.
I must admit, of all the different events at the White House I've covered or attended, never been to the Easter egg roll.
Really?
I have zero desire.
Yeah. Look, the only reason
30,000 people in the South Lawn.
No. 30,000 people and a bunch of children. Like the children being a part of that.
Right. Yeah.
Like I'm only going because I want to take my kids. Otherwise, ain't no way, man. I wouldn't want to cover that.
Your kids are a little too big for Easter egg roll.
Oh, you're never too old.
7 is like you're not wrong.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, the idea of going.
Well, good. I hope you make it.
I'm going to tell him you said that.
If I had any pull down there, I would. I'd try to get you in.
Thanks.
I think you're better off without me. The way things.
I'll play the lottery.
The way things have been going lately. Yes, indeed. The big issue this week. We've talked a little bit about it yesterday. It is just. We keep coming back to it because it's just unbelievable as a strategy. That the Republicans are actually, this is not, we're not making this up. They are actually talking about shutting down the Department of Homeland Security. Of all the government agencies that one would think would be immune to politics, right? Above politics, that you would not play politics with. I can see you can play politics with the Department of Education. Republicans did for a long time. Or with the Environmental Protection Agency. They still do that with the EPA. Or with the IRS. I mean, there are lots of good targets there. But the Department of Homeland Security? Really? After we saw what happened in Paris and we saw what happened in Copenhagen, and everybody said, well, we, rightfully so, we have to be much more serious now, looking for these domestic threats, for foreign fighters coming back here, or for people here inspired by what they see about ISIS to do homegrown terrorist attacks. We got to be really on our guard. And then we see last weekend this warning about possible attacks, copycat attacks to what happened in Kenya, called for by Al-Shabaab, the terrorist organization that launched those attacks against the malls in Kenya. We saw their warning about the Mall of America and other malls here in the United States of America and in Canada. And at this very time, Republicans are saying, we're going to shut them down. We're going to shut down the Department of Homeland Security. That means we're going to shut down the TSA, the Border Patrol, the Coast Guard, FEMA, the Secret Service, and other agencies directly related to Homeland Security. We're going to shut it down because 2 years ago, the president signed an executive order which we don't like. That has to do with dreamers, has to do with kids brought here illegally by their parents, and it protects them from immediate deportation. We don't like that. We think President Obama overstepped his bounds. So we're going to shut down the Department of Homeland Security in like a little twit fit over this. Just to show that we're mean, right? It is insane. But this is what they are doing. The House Republicans. Members of the Senate don't want to do this. Susan Collins said yesterday, they got this judge in Texas who put a stay on the president's executive order. Okay, let that play out in the courts. That's the place to handle that. Lindsey Graham has said the same thing. Senate Republicans, Senate Democrats know it's wrong, number one. Also know it's going nowhere. So for the fourth time last night, Republicans, Mitch McConnell, just doing his duty.
Oh, yeah.
Because, he has said he does not want a government shutdown. And I believe him. He doesn't. You know why? Because he knows it would hurt the party.
Yeah.
Knows it would hurt the Republican Party's chances in 2016. Make them look as dumb as they are. So Mitch McConnell doesn't want this, but he did his duty. He brought it up for another vote last night, and it fell short. They needed 60 votes. They got 47. The vote was 47 to 46. You do the math. There are a lot of Republicans who did not vote for this. It's a bad idea. But that's where we are today. Now, here's what really gets me, and I heard reporters basically on board for this theory. The Republicans are saying, and several of them are quoted this morning in the New York Times, that we can do this, and it's not going to hurt our Homeland Security. You know why it's not going to hurt? Because those people, like the Coast Guard and the Secret Service and TSA, they're considered essential personnel. So they will still have to show up for work. They just won't get paid for it. So nothing's going to change, which is so stupid. I mean, do you really think, and these are the men and women who put their lives on the line every day, but do you really think that they're going to do their job with as much passion, with as much, just do as good a job if they're not getting paid?
Think about that.
Seriously, think about that. You're asked there to go out there and risk your life. For how long, by the way?
We don't know.
2 weeks, a month,
maybe
a year? And you're going to go out there and do your job all the same, no difference, when you're not able to pay your mortgage, buy gas for the car, put food on the table for the kids? Really? It's not going to make any difference? I mean, it is just insane, this thinking. And to hear reporters yesterday challenge the White House on that and say, well, why you say it's going to have a direct impact on security? They're still going to be on the job. Come on, these guys are smarter than that. And by the way, they're like 230,000 employees, roughly, of the Department of Homeland Security. 200,000 of them are deemed essential employees. So they're the ones who would still have to go to work, no paycheck. The other 30,000 who keep the office running, who keep the agencies working, they are non-essential, considered. So they would not even go to work. So in other words, you got these people out in the field, but the home office is shut down. Again, how do you think they're going to do their job when the home office is shut down? It is just absolutely, I keep coming back to it, it's insane that anybody, any right-thinking person could see that this is not a serious problem. The president yesterday talked about it with the nation's governors, and he said, these are the people that we really depend on.
Their hard work helps to keep us safe. And as governors, you know that we can't afford to play politics with our national security.
The last department we ought to be playing politics with, and the governor also pointed out, not only will their work be impacted, but if they're not getting a paycheck, they don't have any money to spend.
These are folks who, if they don't have a paycheck, are not going to be able to spend that money in your states. It will have a direct impact on your economy, and it will have a direct impact on America's national security.
Yeah, these are guys, they're getting their paycheck. They're not putting it in Goldman Sachs, right? They're spending it at the mall, right? They're spending it at the shoe store. They're spending it at the gas station. They're spending it at local restaurants. That money is going to dry up. So it's going to have a direct impact on the economy, a direct impact on our national security. And again, it's just John Boehner's way of saying, we're going to get even with President Obama because he signed that executive order 2 years ago. Dude, you lost that battle. Move on.
There's an interesting line that the president just used where he said, playing politics with national security, which is a line that's been thrown around a lot, I think.
This is exactly what they're doing.
I think misused by Republicans and Democrats in the past. This is absolutely playing politics with national security.
Totally.
There's no other way to put it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's exactly what they're doing. And the Republicans are doing this thinking that this is what the American people want. You tell me, is this what the American people want? 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it here. Tuesday, the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university? And,
yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
One Republican makes a little sense yesterday. Tom Cole from Oklahoma Republican said, I don't think shutdowns and showdowns are the way to win the presidency in 2016.
Yeah.
So there are a couple of level-headed Republicans out there, right, who say, hey, guys, this is not the way to go, right? Yeah. But that's not what John Boehner says. And Boehner, as we quoted him last week when he was on Fox News with Chris Wallace, said, yeah, he thinks it's absolutely the right thing to do to shut down the Department of Homeland Security of all the government agencies and of all the times to do it, and then expect these people to work without getting paid and say that's not going to make any difference at all to our national security. Yeah. How many members of Congress are going to go to work during that time without collecting a paycheck? Carrie is calling from Clinton, Maine. Hello, Carrie.
Hello.
Hi.
This is not what the people want, but we don't have a voice, Bill. We can call our legislators, we can write our letters, but they seem to go ignored.
Well, I have to tell you, in this case, one of your senators, certainly Susan Collins, is on the right side of this. I mean, Susan Collins has told her fellow Republicans yesterday, this is not the right thing to do, guys. Take it through the courts. Let that case that started in Texas wind its way up to the appeals court. The Department of Justice yesterday filed an appeal in that case. Let it go to the appeals court all the way up to the Supreme Court. That's the way to fight a presidential executive order. You don't shut down the Department of Homeland Security. Arthur Delaney next from Huffington Post.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. If I see dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
You got it. 33 minutes after the hour now. Here we go on a Tuesday, February 24. It is the Bill Press Show, brought to you today, coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, and brought to you today by our good friends at the Laborers International Union of North America, LIUNA. Good men and women of the Laborers Union under President Terry O'Sullivan, working hard every day to build a better America. That's their website, LIUNA, buildsamerica.org. Here's another man who works every day to make this a better place and to tell us all about it, what's going on here, particularly on the working families front. Arthur Delaney from Huffington Post. Hello, Arthur. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
We're good. We're good. We are trying to understand the reasoning behind Republicans saying this is a good time to shut down the Department of Homeland Security. Because who needs Homeland Security with ISIS and Al-Qaeda in Iraq or the Arabian Peninsula and Al-Shabaab and threats against shopping malls in the United States? Shut down the Department of Homeland Security.
Or this is a fight some Republicans wanted to have last fall. And at the time, there was, obviously no clear win. So they put it off. And now the time has come. And
they funded all the rest of the government except the Department of Homeland Security.
Yes, this is why we had the Cromnibus. And this is a huge part of it. Everything's funded except for this one agency for just 3 months.
And they run out of money Friday.
It's exciting.
I know, Friday.
Shutdown is in the air again. And it's a magical feeling for everybody.
Here's where I get stuck, right? Is the Republicans are saying, no. This is not going to impact our national security. We'll shut down the department, but it's not going to harm our national security because these are essential personnel.
Yeah.
And they will have to show up to work anyway. They just won't get paid.
Some Republicans are saying that, and I think at this point there are plenty of others who have very openly been saying this is dumb. This isn't the fight we're going to win. We've got this court battle now on the same issue. Why not let that be the avenue?
That's what Susan Collins is saying. That's what Lindsey Graham is saying.
And many Democrats are saying that.
To me, it's not an insult to working men and women to say, even police and firemen.
Yeah.
If you expect them to go to work for a week or 2 weeks or a month or longer, without getting a paycheck, that's going to impact their performance. Right?
Yeah, unlike the previous shutdown where essential workers would stay, and that wasn't everybody. It's almost everybody with DHS. It's like 75% of their workforce.
200 out of 230,000.
Exactly. So everything they do, they'll keep doing, but the problem will be they won't be getting paid. But how long do you think this will go? Will they actually be missing pay periods? And
they get paid every 2 weeks.
But that is nothing. 30,000 people not working and everyone else having to cover for them. And this is people who are patting you down in the airport line for whom voters probably don't have a whole lot of sympathy. But it's easy to imagine how this would affect their work. And I think even people who hate having their naked body scanned and being fondled by these workers realize that it's important work, and making their jobs worse is not good for national security. And that's a powerful situation. I think that's why some Republicans are saying, don't do this, don't want to do it. Only a few are pulling this line that it won't matter.
Yeah.
But geez.
But enough of them,
yeah.
That this is the track. This is the path they're going down.
I think cynical observers expect a continuing resolution or some other kind of punt before Friday.
Yeah.
That they won't really want to play with this. The leaders in the party will just get something that Democrats will agree to at the end, because the impasse they're at now, they've been at for several weeks. It's been the Senate bill that failed last night. And we saw that this is happening in really slow motion.
Yeah.
And we knew it would happen well in advance.
Fourth time they've done it. And it's clearly that bill is not going to get through the Senate. They can't even get every Republican to vote for it.
But Republicans they just weren't there. They only had 47 yes votes, needing
yes
60,
votes.
and 46 nays.
Yeah.
Democrats love the filibuster, by the way. Carl Hulse for the New York Times was talking about how amazing it is. This is a tweet of his that I thought was pretty good. How positions have flipped on the filibuster, and just with the utmost sincerity on both sides, with Republicans decrying it and Democrats basically using it as a sacred part of their job.
So a lot of Republicans and a lot of members, which I tweeted out yesterday from the White House, a lot of members of the media are buying into this stuff, that this is no big deal. No big deal, because people are they'll still go to work. They just won't get paid. So what the hell? Melvin, out in South Bend, Indiana. Melvin, what do you think about all this?
Well, good morning to you all.
Yeah.
I know this is a terrible thing to say, but the John Boehner-led Congress, I think they don't like America.
Oh. Melvin.
I see what you did there.
You see, when he started there, I thought, that's a little Rudy-like. Yeah. That's right. That's John Boehner.
Well, how do you
doesn't love America?
Does Melvin know what's in John Boehner's heart? I don't think so.
I'm sure he wasn't questioning his patriotism.
But it does, and this is again where some level-headed Republicans they realize that if you just look at what they're doing, what some of them want to do, right? At a time when there is heightened concern about security, because of the latest thing, Al-Shabaab, right, with the malls, and then Paris and Copenhagen, that the last thing they ought to be doing is shutting down, of all government agencies, the Department of Homeland Security.
Republicans will take the blame for this. It's technically, it's Democrats who are being obstructionists in the Senate. Well, if you're looking at the procedure of the Senate, they are the ones doing a filibuster.
Well, they're saying
it's Republicans who
can call it that, but I think you're playing into the Republican hands by calling it obstructionism.
No, it's sensible to observe who is filibustering this time.
But what they're saying is this is a bad idea for America. To shut down this department is bad for the people of this country.
Yes, it's Republicans who have insisted on doing this instead of a normal funding bill that either ups or lowers the amount of money the agency gets, have attached these riders to it that they know are essentially poison pills for Democrats. But anyway, even though it's a Democratic filibuster, the voters are going to blame Republicans for this, just like they did the previous shutdown, and they know that.
They know that,
and
and they will, because Republicans are in charge of both houses of Congress, and Mitch McConnell's out there saying. And by the way, I believe him when he says, I don't want to shut down the government. I don't want to shut down DHS. Mitch McConnell knows, he's been around a long time. He knows this is going to backfire on them.
Well, I bet you $1 that they'll do a clean CR or something like that.
Before the end of the week.
Yeah, I bet you $1. That's right.
What do you think? $10,000?
$10,000 bet.
Maybe $10,000 here.
$10,000 bet. I'll bet you $1, and if I lose this bet, I'll come in with $1 and I'll give it to you on the air. if the DHS is shut down next week.
All right. Now, on another issue that you and I have talked a lot about, but not this particular aspect of it, and that is living wage or minimum wage. We know. The Democrats have not been able to get this passed through the House, President, or through the Senate, through the House. Really. Yeah, they got it through the Senate. This is something the president wants, and the president said, "Well, look, I'll do what I can by executive order for federal agencies, and I'm calling on businesses around the country to raise minimum wage themselves, or cities to do it, states to do it." There's a lot of movement. Last week, I don't think any of us expected. Walmart, of all companies, came out and said they're going to raise the minimum wage to $9 right away, and then $10 next year.
And this is for 500,000 workers, so it's a huge deal. One of the largest private sector employer in the U.S. I think what they realize, though, they see the economy getting better. It hadn't happened yet, but the labor market is tightening, meaning workers will have more power to demand higher wages. Legislatures around the country are increasing the minimum wage. Partly, Walmart is going with the flow.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's like when Henry Ford signed up for the 8-hour day and paying his workers enough money to buy a car. He wanted to beat the labor unions to it. It's not labor unions in this case with Walmart, but it's a business being savvy and realizing this is the direction that things are going, and they can get slightly ahead of it by doing this. And it's great PR, and it'll be good for business in all likelihood, because these are people, some of whom are on Medicaid and food stamps and have less money to buy things at Walmart, where they would likely be shopping.
Right. Now, but some people have said right away, were critical of it, saying, well, it's really not enough. I mean, $10 an hour.
It's still $10 an hour.
Still $10 an hour, right? They really should have gone like Seattle did or San Francisco did, go to $15 an hour.
Well, the groups that have been agitating for higher wages moved on from $10 like more than a year ago.
Yeah.
So I don't think
food workers
they will not be placated at all. I think we'll continue to see the small strikes and the walkouts, particularly around the most inconvenient times for shoppers, the holidays. We're going to still see that stuff. But until the next one, this is a good PR move for Walmart. But no, it's not enough money to really make a living. It's just more money than before when you're abjectly underpaid.
Right. And what does it mean? We'll talk about this when we come back from the break. Does this mean that does this, let's say, bolster the argument for the need for federal legislation, or say, why do we need it now? Companies are doing it on their own. Arthur Delaney here from Huffington Post at 866-55-PRESS. Your questions and comments, always welcome. Join us.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. you could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found on the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water. Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer. Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now. Please.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Let's make it 11 minutes before the top of the hour. Arthur Delaney here in studio with us from Huffington Post with Igor Volsky from Think Progress joining us at the top of the next hour. The twins, we call them on Tuesday, Arthur and Igor. So, Arthur, I saw some Democrats saying, this proves Walmart's action. This proves why we need that minimum wage legislation, and Republicans were saying this proves why we don't need it because companies are doing it on their own.
Either way, that's kind of an awkward talking point, isn't it? I don't think the minimum wage they should be going for should be higher anyway. So
right.
So they can continue. This proves why we don't need it. Walmart doesn't employ everybody. Would be my. I mean, yes, right. It's a big company, but that isn't everybody. So
it's
the
not
point of the minimum
and it doesn't go high enough. So we still do need, I would say, some minimum wage legislation. But I don't know whether you saw James Suriecki in the New Yorker magazine a couple of weeks ago had an article saying this whole argument. I think you've made this point too about the minimum wage is really kind of silly. Not silly, but it sort of doesn't go far enough. We really ought to be talking about a living wage that would really lift people out of poverty. So maybe $20 an hour. Right?
It's Yeah, and that's totally off the table. I mean, the minimum wage demands, high as they get, like $15, is still designed to be sort of within reason for Republicans and business groups. It's not necessarily a living wage, though it's much closer than $9 or $10 an hour.
Yeah. Johnny is calling from out in Chicago. Hey, Johnny, what's up?
Oh, nothing much. Mr. Delaney, I would just like to know if you have any stats on how many blacks are on food stamps compared to whites. Thank you very much. I'll listen for your response.
All right. Thanks for
Johnny.
asking.
Hey, this is the answer man here.
Yeah.
I didn't look at the statistics this morning, but more white people than black people are on food stamps. I think the food stamp population is 24% black and a significantly larger percent white, either 30 in the 30s or 40%. And this may surprise some people, since I think there's lingering misconceptions about it being a black thing. I know this whenever we have a food stamp story, and if there happens to be a picture of African Americans accompanying it, people say, why do you insist on illustrating your story that way? That's not, that's basically racist, and that's not the situation. And it's not. It's not a black thing, food stamps.
I think most people would be surprised to hear that.
I think that's right. Given the characterizations by certain politicians and people over the years of who use food
of who's
stamps.
on welfare, who's using food stamps, all that kind of stuff, right?
So Congress this week is going to be taking up food stamps again. So this is a very timely question. Tomorrow, there will be a hearing that marks the beginning of a new Republican effort to reform food stamps. And who gets food stamps is a key question, though Congress doesn't ask. The racial question, their focus has been on able-bodied adults without dependents, people who can work, who don't have a disability, who aren't senior citizens, and who don't have children, and they make up just 10% of the population. And that's been the group of people who Republicans have talked about the most, who presumably they want to figure out a way to get those people off food stamps. And I think that we'll find out more tomorrow at this hearing, and I'll report back next week.
Yeah.
But there's definitely food stamp action coming up, and it's good to know who's getting these benefits. For the most part, white people, for the most part, people with disabilities, senior citizens, and children. The 46 million number that you hear, 46 million Americans getting benefits, that's who is included in those groups. It's less than half working age adults, and only 10% working age adults who aren't disabled and don't have children.
All right, Johnny, hope that answers your question and more, indeed. Arthur, go to that hearing. Yeah, let's talk about it next week. The whole food stamp battle starting to heat up again. Always good to have you here, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Mr. Delaney, I should say. Yeah, yes. Arthur Delaney from Huffington Post, HuffingtonPost.com. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan.
And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately that's been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
All right, boy, just winding out of time in this first hour. But Igor Volsky is standing by, managing editor of Think Progress. Join us in the next hour a little bit later. Jessica Taylor from The Hill will be here, as well as Hadas Gold from Politico. Bill O'Reilly still insists he was in a war zone in the Falkland Islands War. Was he?
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, friends and neighbors, good Tuesday. It is Tuesday, February 23rd. So good to see you today. Here we are on the Bill Press Show, ready to go live with you across the great land of ours on your local progressive talk radio station, on Free Speech TV, and on TawkrTV. Thank you for joining us today, and don't forget, we really feel your presence when you chime in. You can do so by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Or send us your comments on Twitter at PP Show or on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Yes, indeed. Today, February 24, we are one day closer to shutting down the Department of Homeland Security. Yeah, as crazy as it sounds, after we get more and more threats from Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, who are behind the attacks, we think, in Paris and in Copenhagen. We get warnings from Al-Shabaab from Kenya, who are behind the attacks, or behind the call for attacks this weekend on the Mall of America and other malls around this country. Despite of those growing security threats, the Republican plan on how to deal with it is to shut down the Department of Homeland Security, responsible for protecting our homeland. They say, Republicans say, it would be no big deal. Get it? They would shut down TSA, the Coast Guard, the Secret Service, FEMA, the Border Patrol, and did I mention Coast Guard, and other protective agencies. Republicans say, no big deal. We'll shut it down, but those people are all essential services, so they will still go to work anyway. They just won't get paid for it. And what I want to know is, how many members of Congress are going to go to work for one day without getting paid? Hell, we pay them to do nothing every day. At any rate, it is outrageous, but it looks like that's where we are heading. We'll talk about it this morning and a whole lot more. And take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. Thanks for being with us.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished. When they incarcerate your children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
More threats to national security. So here's an idea. Let's shut down the Department of Homeland Security. Hello? Yep. That's what the Republican Party is saying today, believe it or not. Hello, everybody. Doesn't make sense to me. I don't think it makes sense to most of the American people. John Boehner believes it. Tuesday, February 24. Good to see you today. Here we are on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. Our little studio here just down the street from the United States Capitol, where the Senate was in session yesterday and the House comes back today with their big challenge to find some way to keep the Department of Homeland Security running before money runs out at the end of the week, or, which Boehner and some House Republicans are saying, just shut it down unless the president is willing to rescind his executive order on the Dreamers, which he signed a couple of years ago. That's the big news from Washington this week. We'll tell you what's going on here and around the country and around the globe, and then look forward to getting your calls at 866-55-PRESS. The big bonus is this first half hour. If you call, you get not to talk to me, but to Igor Volsky, managing editor, of Think Progress.
Is that my official ding?
Yeah.
Thank you. That's, yeah.
Some people should remember to turn their cell phones off before they
so rude.
get
Igor.
on.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yes, Igor. Right.
Turn your phone off.
Hello, Igor. How are you?
Good morning, Bill. Happy to be here. A little stranger seating arrangement. I feel I'm not sure why I'm on this side of the table again.
I had to physically restrain Igor from pushing you out of the chair earlier.
I was a little worried about it.
He wanted to get back.
Yes. If you remember last week when I had even less of a voice than today, I was over there waving. That's all I could do.
Silently.
Yes.
It was the silent wave.
Yes. And
Bill was in the guest
was
seat.
Here.
Igor was in the host seat. I was very confused.
The whole time.
I didn't know what was going
where
on.
Am I?
I wasn't sure who to suck up to.
We just like to keep you on your toes.
That's
so
right.
That when you come in, you
I never know what it's going to be like. Yeah.
Right.
Some days I don't even go on. I just sit out there waiting.
You'll be running the camera, running the
right.
board. Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy. Hello.
Hey now.
Hey, good morning.
Alicia Cruz on the phones at 866-55-PRESS. Monty Kensler is here filling in for Cyprian Bolding today, our videographer. President Obama invited the nation's governors are in town. Actually, they had two big visits to the White House. Sunday evening, the president and the vice president hosted them for the governor's annual ball. And yesterday, they had a working session in the state dining room where the president spoke, the vice president spoke, and then, as President Obama said, they saved the best to last.
The only thing more glamorous than a black-tie dinner with Hall & Oates is Q&A with Obama and Biden. So we saved the best for last.
They too bad that was closed to the press, but they then took questions from the governors.
Oh.
Yeah.
I wonder.
There was a question at the briefing yesterday whether or not Scott Walker asked President Obama whether Scott Walker was present, and number one, and number two, whether Scott Walker asked the president if he were a Christian. Because that has come out. That's one thing. It's one thing we want to talk to you about, Igor. Don't forget, you can join us anytime at 866-55-PRESS or send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show, on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. And we'll get right to all of the news of the day with Igor. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. You know, if there's one thing I learned when I was serving in Vietnam, Bill, it's don't lie about your military service. VA Secretary Robert McDonald admitted that he lied about serving in Special Forces. He was actually doing an interview with CBS Evening News last month, and he was talking about relocating homeless veterans, and he was in Los Angeles, and a homeless vet told McDonald that he had served in Special Operations Forces, and McDonald said to him, quote, "Special Forces? What years? I was in Special Forces," end quote. Turns out he was not in Special Forces, and he
was in the Army.
He was in the Army, but he was in Special Forces, and he had to put out a very embarrassing comment yesterday saying, quote, "I have no excuse. I was not in Special Forces."
Is the explanation that he got confused? Because I saw it this morning. I didn't understand what his reasoning was.
His reasoning was, as he said, that he just responded to this guy and was trying to make conversation and just kind of got wrapped up in what he was saying. So it's not to give this guy a pass, but it's not like he has a history of saying and putting on his resume. This is a one-off in a conversation. But still, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Especially today, don't do that.
No.
Fact checkers everywhere. Oof.
Congratulations to Krispy Kreme. They are opening the donut company.
Harder and harder to tell a lie.
Yeah, right? Krispy Kreme Donuts is opening up their 1,000th location in Kansas City. And to celebrate, they are going to be giving back to you. They are going to be giving away 1 million donuts all around the country. So here's the deal. The company has, like I said, 1,000 different locations in 24 different countries. Every store is going to be giving 1,000 donuts to the first 1,000 customers. So if you walk in, you get a free donut, right? So if you have a Krispy Kreme near you, you might be a little too late, depending on how enthusiastic the Krispy Kreme fans in your neck of the woods are. But if you're near a Krispy Kreme, go check it out. You get a free donut. How about that?
Pretty cool. But pro tip here from Peter, don't buy it in a grocery store.
Look,
go to the actual Krispy Kreme.
I'm going to tell you something. If you see a Krispy Kreme donut box in a grocery store,
run away.
This is only in stores. You can't get this in the gas station or the grocery store.
Yeah.
If you see them in a gas station or grocery store, run away. Those are not Krispy Kreme donuts. Those are sawdust with icing on it. Horrible. The hot, fresh donuts with the light is on outside of a Krispy Kreme store.
All right, well, Bill Press Show field trip.
Yeah. That's where it's
I
at.
don't know where the nearest Krispy Kreme donut place is to here. I know District Donuts, 2 blocks away.
There's one in Alexandria on Route 1.
Oh, come on.
And they have a drive-through.
There's one in DuPont. DuPont.
That's deadly. The Krispy Kreme drive-through, the Krispy Kreme 24-hour drive-through, forget it. I mean, you don't even have a chance if you're near one of those.
Yeah, because there are too many police cars in line.
That's right. And congratulations to the latest columnist for The Hill. Well, not a columnist, but he wrote an op-ed piece this morning. President Barack Obama. President Barack Obama. Also, he's adding a little something to his resume. Columnist for The Hill. He wrote an op-ed called Moving Forward to Fix Our Broken Immigration System. It's up on The Hill live this morning as of 6 a.m. Eastern Time. Starts out by saying our immigration system has been broken for decades. Our country deeply values fairness, but our immigration system has become unfair to businesses, workers, and families alike. We will post that. We'll tweet it out at BP Show. So,
that Barack Obama gets around. He has also written for Think Progress in years past.
Is that right?
Yes.
Pluggity plug?
Yes.
So now,
Where
Bill,
can I
you're...
read that, Igor? Is it thinkprogress.org?
Could be.
Huh.
So you guys are colleagues now.
Basically, we're colleagues.
But you've got seniority because you've been writing for longer.
No, but I'm waiting here. What else is in The Hill this morning?
Yes. More importantly.
That's the only thing I saw. Only thing worth mentioning.
They blacked everything else out for this Obama column.
Yeah.
I think there's another column in The Hill this morning.
We got another hour left of the show, right? 2 hours of the show, right?
Every Tuesday morning.
You maybe get that in. Look at that one.
Wow.
I think we ought to tweet that one out, too.
Oh, of course I will. Obviously, I do every Tuesday.
My column on Republicans not
Somebody get him a Krispy Kreme. Really?
Giuliani. It's called Silence on Giuliani. GOP Silence on Giuliani.
It's a great piece.
Thank you.
What a great column.
And I'll bet you I have more comments than that.
Are you checking the third hour?
Yeah. That newbie.
Yeah.
Barack Obama.
Yeah.
He'll never make it with a name like that.
That's right.
Fading fast.
All right. 15. Thank you all. 15 minutes. Yeah. Checks in the mail. 15 minutes after the hour now. So, gosh, where do we start? But, well, you something you said there reminded me of Bill O'Reilly. I know you're talking about the war zone. I mean, here's O'Reilly. Isn't it pretty clear that this guy is lying through his teeth?
Well, it seems that way. No one is backing him up. His former CBS colleague is disputing his allegations, and the fact that his response to this is to threaten reporters, to threaten the New York Times reporter, to threaten David Corn of Mother Jones, just suggests to you that there's no real defense here. Now, Fox News is still standing by him. I think partly because the viewers of his show are on his side. If that changes, if advertisers get a little shaky, which I don't know if they will, this could be a problem. But so far it's not sticking, I don't think, because Bill O'Reilly doesn't have the same kind of reputation as Mr. Brian Williams.
Yeah. We said last week when we were talking about Brian Williams, or now it's 2 weeks ago, right, that if this happened to Bill O'Reilly or Rush Limbaugh or something...
Yeah, who cares? Sean Hannity, yeah.
Right, who cares? Because this is kind of what you expect from them. At the same time, you've got to say, I think, he said he was in a war zone. He was actually in Buenos Aires. Okay. As I think this former CBS reporter,
colleague,
Eric
producer,
Engberg
I think,
said, this was not a war zone. It was a expense account zone.
Small distinction.
They were staying in a big hotel.
He got confused.
Maybe. But his defense is to go on the attack. Here he is the first night going after David Corn.
This man, 56-year-old David Corn, who works for the far-left magazine Mother Jones, smeared me, your humble correspondent, yesterday, saying I had fabricated some war reporting. Mother Jones, which is low circulation, considered by many the bottom rung of journalism in America. Basically, David Corn, a liar, says I exaggerated situations in the Falklands War and the Salvadoran War. Here's the truth. Everything I've said about my reportorial career, everything, is true.
Yeah, everything is. So he's got to say, 56 years old, he's a liar, low circulation.
Losing his hair.
Yeah.
Your humble correspondent.
Well, it all comes down to what the folks at home think, as he would say. And the folks at home so far are sticking with him. I mean, I haven't seen his numbers, but I don't think they've fallen.
And the folks in the corner office, namely Roger Ailes, are going to stick with him. So, I mean, there's nothing's going to happen to him. But I guess the point is, you do not expect as much from Bill O'Reilly as you do from Brian Williams. Somebody else got in a little trouble this week, and you've written about this, Igor. Scott Walker. Well, so he's running for president. He just doesn't want to answer any questions about where he stands on anything.
Well, now, Bill, longtime listeners of the Bill Press Show will remember that last week I spent 3 hours on this program defending Scott Walker for not having a college degree. And this week, I have decided to attack Scott Walker.
Oh, good.
For being an idiot on the campaign trail.
See, if he had his college degree.
If he had his college degree, this would be different. Because he was asked over the weekend whether or not he believes Obama is a Christian. This is following Obama's remarks at the prayer breakfast that caused all of this controversy about Christian violence in decades and hundreds of years gone by during the Crusades. And Mr. Walker said multiple times that he does not know, and he has not talked with the president about this issue, and so he can't answer this gotcha reporter question. And the thing that surprised me is Scott Walker is a man of accomplishment, right? Of conservative accomplishment. Conservatives hold him up as someone who gets things done, who pushes the Republican agenda. And the fact that he thinks in this campaign that his ticket to success is to emulate people like Rick Perry and Michelle Bachmann from 2012 is shocking to me. I mean, who looked at those people in 2012 and said, that's what I want to be like. Yeah. That's who I want to appeal to. Because the small number of maybe tens of thousands of voters you appeal to in Iowa and South Carolina, you lose hundreds and thousands of voters in New Hampshire and elsewhere in the country who look at this behavior, who look at these answers and say, come on, we've had 7, 8 years of this and we're not going to this guy because we need real solutions, a real agenda for the party. And if he's not offering it, we're going to look at someone named Jeb Bush, who's not playing these games, and smartly so.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's striking to me. In evolution, right? He says, no, I don't think politicians...
That's not a question, yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't think this is a question politicians ought to have anything to...
And let's be clear, the reason why these questions are important...
As a governor, for example, that's very important where you stand on evolution. It has to do with what's taught in the schools, what's in the textbooks.
Yeah. Well, and these questions also reveal to the public how much the candidate is willing to pander to the rightest of conservative bases.
Right.
And if the answer is a lot, well, that says a lot about that person's campaign, that person's policies, and what he's going to be like as president.
That's an important point to make, because there are so many people, Republicans, who are saying, oh, these questions are irrelevant. They're only trying to get them to step on their feet. They're only trying to get them to trip up. Yeah.
I mean, it's an easy question, though.
It's not, right.
It's not like a trick question.
If they can't answer this question, what else can't they answer?
Yeah, it's not something you have to, get in a headstand on and juggle at the same time.
Right.
You just say, yeah, he is. I believe him.
He says he is. I believe he is.
I believe he is, and that's it.
Yeah.
And what he's done is, by answering no repeatedly and by blaming the media, he's perpetuating the story, making it a lot bigger. And for somebody who's just introducing himself to the national stage, he has very low name recognition outside of Wisconsin, outside of conservative activist circles. This is the stuff that's going to define him.
It's also a dog whistle answer.
Oh, yes.
Because the dog whistle is he's a Muslim.
Yes.
I mean, that's what these are saying. By not being sure he's a Christian, then he's opening that, he's pointing to that theory, right? He's a Muslim. Again, anti-American, doesn't love his country, pals around
Which
with
gives you, a newfound respect for John McCain, who in 2008, we remember that moment when he was asked, was he a Muslim? McCain shut that down fast.
Yeah, but you won't see that from Scott Walker. 866-55-PRESS is our toll-free number. Your one chance to get a question in or a comment to the great Igor Volsky from Think Progress. And we will be right back here with the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job, and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand, and they don't get it, and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all of the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
Yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance. Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 27 minutes after the hour. Sorry. With Igor Volsky here. Igor, March 3rd, the date of Bibi Netanyahu's scheduled speech to a joint session of Congress. Is he going to cancel?
No, he's going ahead, pushing ahead. This is something that plays well with his base in Israel. He's up for re-election for a historic fourth term. And a lot of Israelis view this, and he sees this as his kind of Winston Churchill moment. He compares himself to Churchill a whole lot. And as he's about to give this speech, there's revelations coming out of leaked intelligence documents that the Israeli intelligence service, Mossad, strongly disagrees with Bibi's assessment of Iran's nuclear capability. And this is key because Netanyahu has built his entire case on this idea that Iran is about to break out its nuclear materials into a bomb, moments away. And this assessment says that he's completely wrong. They are years and years and years away from that moment. And that, I think, will complicate his presentation and may cause problems for him domestically, because it's not the first time Israeli intelligence officials have disagreed with his claims.
Doesn't this sound familiar? So you have a leader of a nation who is saying this threat is boom, 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 and the intelligence agencies are saying, no, it's not.
Heard this before.
But then in our case, it was Dick Cheney who went out to the CIA and said...
But you know what? They still win re-election is what we also know with these leaders. They win because fear works.
And Netanyahu, you think will pull it off?
I think so.
Yeah. Bad news, but Igor Volsky, we will not blame you. Thank you so much for coming in.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. If I say dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, 33 minutes now after the hour on Tuesday, February 24. Hello. So good to see you today. The Bill Press Show brought to you today coming from our studio on Capitol Hill, Washington, D.C., brought to you today by AFSCME, the largest public employee and healthcare workers union in the entire country. Good men and women of AFSCME under President Lee Saunders, making America happen, you bet. And that's you can find out more about their good work if you go to their website at AFSCME.org. Yes, indeed, we talked a little bit about this with Igor Volsky, but moving back to the big flap now about Bill O'Reilly on Fox News. And it sort of stems back to, if you remember, when we first talked about Brian Williams. In fact, I wrote a column about this where I said, we expect a different standard of truth-telling from network anchors than we expect from commentators like me, pundits like me, or anchors even on cable news like Sean Hannity or Bill O'Reilly. Well, what I didn't know at the time was that Bill O'Reilly does in fact have a Brian Williams comment. My point was, if one of them had told some big fat lie, they wouldn't probably lose their job because we sort of expect them to lie. After all, it's Fox News. Mm-hmm. Well, then David Korn and David Schulman, I think his name is, a fellow reporter from Mother Jones here in Washington, D.C., Mother Jones Magazine, did catch Bill O'Reilly in a great big fat lie. He has always said when he was a reporter, before he joined Fox News, he was a reporter for CBS. He went to Argentina to cover the Falklands War back in the 80s. And he says he has always reported he was in the war zone. He reported from the war zone. David Korn pointed out in Mother Jones Magazine, he didn't report from the war zone. He was actually in Buenos Aires. There were no reporters in the war zone. The Argentine army would not allow any reporters at all to get to the islands where the war was taking place. The war was not taking place in Buenos Aires. I think David Korn's got him
dead to rights.
Dead to rights.
Absolutely.
Dead on the facts.
Yeah.
Right. Not that he wasn't there, not that he wasn't a reporter, not that he wasn't reporting about the war, but he was not in the war zone, which is all that David Korn originally said in Mother Jones. But Bill O'Reilly Unlike Brian Williams, Bill O'Reilly hasn't given any apology. Bill O'Reilly has just been on the attack from day one. Here he is the first day he speaks about this after the Mother Jones piece appeared.
This man, 56-year-old David Korn, who works for the far-left magazine Mother Jones, smeared me, your humble correspondent, yesterday, saying I had fabricated some war reporting. Mother Jones, which is low circulation, considered by many the bottom rung of journalism in America. Basically, David Korn, a liar, says I exaggerated situations in the Falklands War and the Salvadoran War. Here's the truth. Everything I've said about my reportorial career, everything, is true.
Yeah, just trust me. Everything I said is true. Well, on the face of it, again, there's sort of two factors here from what I've been reading about. One is, was he in the war zone or not? No, he wasn't. He was in Buenos Aires. So he says, no. I was in Buenos Aires, but there was a big protest in Buenos Aires. And people were mowed down. Soldiers fired their guns into the crowd, mowing people down. Other reporters who were there were saying, yeah, there was a big protest and was pretty lively, but nobody was killed. One person called it the chummiest protest he ever covered. So, it was a protest, but it was not a war.
Right.
There is a difference between a protest and a war, right? If you were in New York City when they were protesting the killing up there recently, right? You know, all this big protest. That's one thing to cover that protest. That's not going to a war zone. So
hardly
again. But again, O'Reilly continues. He went on this online show called American Dreamers. Again, insisting everything he said was right.
Yeah, it was dangerous. I almost got killed a couple of times. And I was out there pretty much by myself because the other CBS News correspondents were hiding in the hotel. And I said, wait, you got to get out and cover the story, which I did.
Yeah.
I almost got killed a couple of times.
The other reporters, several reporters have said that, who were down there with O'Reilly in Buenos Aires, one of whom said this was not a war zone, it was an expense account zone. Because they were living the good life in the hotel, right? Doing the reporting based on dispatches from the front.
Yeah, I almost got killed a couple of times.
Almost got killed, yeah. All those reporters, a whole mess of them, have said that O'Reilly totally exaggerated what was going on in Buenos Aires. So now he's attacking them, accusing them of hiding out in the hotel when he went out in the streets with his crew. He continued that same thing on Howie Kurtz Sunday, where he media buzz on Fox, where he attacks this one reporter, Eric Engberg, who was a CBS reporter, just like Bill O'Reilly, on the same beat. And he is the number one person who has said that O'Reilly is far exaggerating his role. O'Reilly on Howie Kurtz goes on attacks Eric Engberg.
Your photographer was run down, hit in the head. He was bleeding. The Army was chasing you guys. Engberg says, I never heard of any injury to the photographer.
Well, because I don't think he was there. I don't think he knows what happened. And I'll tell you why. I left the hotel. Engberg was still in the hotel, the Sheraton. I came back, running back with video for the Rather broadcast that night. Engberg was in the hotel. So if he were in the Plaza de Mayo, okay, where was the video? Why did I have to run it up to the feed point and send it to New York? So I don't know if he was even there. And I'd like everybody to ask him, were you there?
Okay.
Because his reputation, his nickname was Room Service Eric.
Good grief. Yeah. Again,
a jerk.
So I guess the bottom line is, the real question is, does anybody care? Does anybody expect any different from Bill O'Reilly? I don't. Never did. No. I never believed a word he said anyhow. Yeah, right?
No.
But like Brian Williams, he has talked about his war record on the air. He has written books about where he's talked about his war record and bragged about it. And now he's exposed as lying about it. Do you think Fox is going to suspend him? Hell no. Do you think he would apologize? Hell no. And I wonder in the end if anybody cares what happens to Bill O'Reilly.
It's funny because, like you've said, when we were talking about Brian Williams, it was just kind of like, this wouldn't be an issue if this happened to someone on Fox. We know that they lie.
Yeah.
That's the difference between the Brian Williams story and the O'Reilly story. And this is a pretty clear case of O'Reilly at the very least stretching the truth on what he encountered.
Right. And by the way, it hasn't stopped. The New York Times reports this morning, and the New York Times is not part of this whole cat fight, right? I mean, they've just been reporting on the battle between and the attacks of Bill O'Reilly on David Corn and on Mother Jones, and yet O'Reilly called Emily Steele, who's the media reporter for the New York Times, and told her, quote, here's the quote, "I am coming after you." Well, he said, during a phone conversation, he told a reporter for the New York Times that there would be repercussions if he felt any of the reporter's coverage was inappropriate.
Wow.
And here's what he told her. And she admitted, not in this story, but later she admitted that she is the one that he was talking to. She is the one, Emily Steele, he told this to, quote, "I am coming after you with everything I have. You can take it as a threat."
How about that?
Whoa. Yeah. Now, first of all, what does he have?
Right.
He's got a loud mouth on Fox News. Right?
Yeah.
So what's it going to do? She's going to lose her job at the Times because he takes her on?
Right. And she's a media reporter?
Right. So he calls David Corn a liar and, says Mother Jones doesn't have much circulation. And do you think David Corn's going to lose his job?
I don't think
so. You know what it is? Yeah. He's just a bully. And that's what we've known that about him. He's a big mouth, do nothing, know nothing bully. My definition of Bill O'Reilly. Do you care? Do you think anybody cares what happens to Bill O'Reilly? Should he lose his job? Is he telling the truth? Hell no. 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it here Tuesday morning on The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
Yeah, I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found on the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer. Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
You know, to show you how sneaky this Bill O'Reilly is when he is trying to say, I did nothing but tell the truth, tell the truth, tell the truth. So on Media Buzz with Howie Kurtz on Sunday, back to this protest, he's making the point that this protest, covering this protest in Buenos Aires, 1,000 miles from the front, he says, is the same as being in the war zone covering the war. Because this protest got violent and police mowed down people in the crowd. And he says here to prove this, he cites an article from the New York Times in 1982 about the protest. And he reads this quote from the New York Times. One policeman pulled a pistol, firing 5 shots. So he said, this proves it. This proves it. Well, the New York Times went back and looked at their reporting. And here's what the report actually said. One policeman pulled a pistol, firing 5 shots over the heads of fleeing demonstrators. Bill O'Reilly left that phrase out.
That's bad. That's just sloppy and bad and very clear that you're trying to.
Now, how would Howie Kurtz know that he is not giving the full phrase? You know, he wouldn't.
Right.
But he's got caught. Every time he goes out there and defends himself, he just tells another lie. Let's go out to Chicago. The great WCPT. Here is Phil. What do you say, Phil?
Hey, I just wanted to say it should be pretty easy for him to prove his point that if he was out there with his cameraman, he should have pictures of the bodies that were mowed down out there. Shouldn't be hard for him to prove that.
Yeah, one would think, right? Yeah. Right. And in fact, he says he was the only guy out there, with the only cameraman out there. So where are all the bodies, Bill?
Exactly.
Yeah. No, Phil, it doesn't add up. Doesn't add up at all. You know, look, again, I don't think he's going to lose his job. But what he ought to do, he should do what Rudy Giuliani should have done. He just ought to just shut up, right? Stop digging, as we say. In Chicago, hello, Joe. What's going on? Hi, Joe.
Good morning. I think Bill O'Reilly raised a good point. CBS should put out the expense account reports and show who had the highest room service bill. Listening to Bill O'Reilly, it's going to be him. He'll be the hands-down winner of the highest room service expense account person out there.
You mean Bill O'Reilly would?
Bill O'Reilly would, yes.
Probably. But, you know, I get your point, Joe. At the same time, like, you know, it doesn't really matter, right? Who was racking up the biggest room service bill? The real question is, was he in a war zone or not? No. Was he in a violent protest where hundreds of people were killed, or even one person was killed? No, not one. I mean, again,
you got to back that up.
Reporters are saying here there is no evidence at all that even one person was shot or killed by police that night. Hey, Chicago coming on strong here. WCPT from Joe to Joey in Chicago. What do you think, Joey?
The only time he almost got killed down there was when he ate that bad Caesar salad that one night. Are you kidding me? And by the way, we should tell the Republicans that the White House does not negotiate with hostage takers, Mr. Boner. We do not negotiate with hostage takers. And so just pass 2 different bills. Pass it on.
Okay, all right, Joey.
Joey's on fire, man. I knew Joey would come out for it.
Joey's always on fire.
That's right.
I think he was, but he was talking about the Department of Homeland Security bill, which we talked about in the last hour, and of course, that's what Boehner is trying to do: is hold the Department of Homeland Security, hostage, right? And we won't release them until the president agrees to rescind his executive order. Well, it's going to be interesting to see how this whole Bill O'Reilly thing plays out. He ended his report last night on this by saying he hopes, I want to stop this now. I hope we can stop it. I really do. But,
I'm sure he does.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. And I'm sure there's only one way to stop it, which is to tell the truth.
Yeah.
Or to apologize for telling the lies, which he will never do.
Never.
Right. But I got to tell you, kudos to David Corn and to Mother Jones for just exposing this guy as the big phony that we always knew that he really was.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, 2 hours just about done so far, but we're not done yet. We got a great third hour coming up. Bill O'Reilly in a lot of hot water because he's having a Brian Williams moment. He talked about his experience in the war zones during the Falklands War, but it turns out, he brags about those experiences, turns out he was nowhere close. He was 1,000 miles away in some hotel in Buenos Aires. The question is, if Brian Williams is suspended for 6 months, why is Bill O'Reilly still on the air? We'll get into that with Hadas Gold from Politico coming up in our third hour together on Free Speech TV and on TawkrTV.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear. We had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves,
Would you like it back?
What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat this rat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, on this Tuesday, February 24, coming up to hour number 3, we'll talk 2016 and the political front with Jessica Taylor, campaign editor for The Hill. Don't forget my column, along with a column from some new guy called Barack Obama, is up in The Hill today. We're going to tweet it out if we haven't already done so. My column is on Republican silence when it comes to Rudy Giuliani and where are leading Republicans and why haven't they stood up to condemn his suggesting or asserting that President Obama does not love America. Jessica Taylor here from The Hill, and then Hadas Gold from Politico to talk more about Bill O'Reilly. On the president's schedule today, after he gets a daily briefing with the vice president at 10 o'clock, he and the vice president will hold a meeting with the Emir of Qatar, who is here in town, or Qatar or Qatar, however you pronounce it. Heard both. At 2:10 this afternoon, the president and the vice president meet with rank-and-file law enforcement officials from all across the country. And then members of Congress, meeting with the president late this afternoon to discuss criminal justice reform. We have a briefing today with Josh Earnest at 1 o'clock.
This is the Bill Press Show.
West here reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now. We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going. You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
2 anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
One day closer to the deadline for funding or shutting down the Department of Homeland Security. And it looks like we're playing a game of Ready, Set, Shut Down. Hello, everybody. Tuesday, February 24. What do you say? Good to see you today. Welcome. Welcome to the Bill Press Show, coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our studio on Capitol Hill, booming out to you all across this great land of ours on your local progressive talk radio station. So glad you're there with us in Radioland. Coming at you live on Free Speech TV as well, on the satellite dish world, DirecTV or Dish Network. There we are. And worldwide on our video stream, youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKR-TV. Don't forget for the radio, too, if you don't have a progressive station near you, you can join us by every day. Just download one of the two apps, either iHeartRadio or TuneIn. Both of them are free. Download them, and there we are with you, and you can listen on the radio wherever you are in the United States of America. So good to see you today. We got lots to talk about and lots of good help to get us through this next hour together. Particularly, we want to hear from you at 866-55-PRESS. Peter Ogburn and Lisa Murphy here.
Hello, Bill.
Hey, good morning.
The team, as always, with Alicia Cruz. Ready for your calls at 866-55-PRESS. Cyprian Boldy's got the day off. Monty Kensler filling in as our videographer today on Free Speech TV and TawkrTV. Our good friend from the Hill newspaper, covers everything going on here in Washington, D.C., White House, the agencies, and Congress. Jessica Taylor is their campaign editor. Jessica, good to see you again.
Good morning.
Everything shaping up?
I'm doing well, yeah.
Yeah. My column in the Hill today on Rudy Giuliani and Republicans not seeming to have the fortitude to stand up and attack or to condemn Rudy Giuliani. They either they want to duck it, run away from it, or in some cases agree with him. Anyways, my column up on the Hill today.
Your piece is the best piece on the Hill today.
Thank you. Yes, it's better than that.
Forget
piece.
This new guy writing over there.
This new guy, Barack Obama.
We have a new columnist at the Hill.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I don't think he's going to make it with a name like that.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
No, he'll never get anywhere. Still a lot of buzz about the Oscars, and particularly about some of the acceptance speeches. Nobody made more noise or made more sense, if you ask me, than Patricia Arquette talking about women's rights. She certainly struck a chord with women there in the audience, as Conan O'Brien told us last night.
During her acceptance speech last night, Patricia Arquette did call for equal pay for women. She said equal pay for women. Big moment. Then Oprah stood up and said, "She's right, I can't live like this."
Yeah, Oprah is all right, but still, 78 cents on the dollar still today.
I think Oprah probably skews the number a little bit too when you add her in.
Yeah, it's probably really like 56 cents on the dollar. Look at that Oprah factor.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, 9 minutes after the hour, Jessica here with us to talk all things politics the first half hour, then Hadas Gold to talk from Politico to talk all things media in the next half hour. But first, Peter.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. A new study by the King's College in London shows that for the first time, peanut allergies, they actually might have an idea of how to curb these allergies. Now, most our parents are told, keep peanuts away from kids when they're young. This study actually shows that by introducing peanuts to children when they're very young can actually help curb the allergy. All right, so follow me on this. They did 628 babies prone to developing peanut allergies. They found that the risk was cut by over 80% when they ate peanut products as a baby. So they gave them peanut butter and peanuts and things like that. It turned out they were just fine. They didn't have the allergy.
How did they know they were prone to the disease?
That is a question that I'm going to leave for the researchers to answer. I guess hereditary or whatever. But So there you go.
It's a serious, I have a little niece who has that problem. It's really serious.
In schools and things, you know, like, you got to be careful what you put in your kid's lunchbox. And,
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why they like stop serving peanuts and stuff even on planes and stuff.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
I'm not fine with the pretzels. The U.S. Postal Service announced yesterday that they're going to release a forever stamp in memory of the celebrated poet Maya Angelou. She's going to get her own stamp. It's going to be a forever stamp. It's going to be coming out later on this year. You know all of her accolades, right? Maya Angelou.
But is she still alive?
No, she passed away last year.
Last year, okay, okay.
Yeah, so congratulations to Maya Angelou. And we know the numbers for the Oscar. The ratings were not great for the show. They were down 17% since last year among 18 to 49 viewers. It's the lowest total audience in 6 years and the lowest rating in 7 years. So maybe Neil Patrick Harris didn't do as good of a job as everybody was hoping he would.
He didn't get very good reviews.
No,
I
he
mean,
didn't. No.
I watched just off and on. I say Tina Fey and Amy Poehler for Oscar.
For everything.
hosts. Everything. Let's just let them host everything.
We talked to totally.
No, absolutely.
Totally. We talked to Ann Hornaday yesterday, and she said that he wasn't served by good writing. And I think there's a good point. Because he's done really, really good stuff.
Yeah.
The stuff I saw from the Oscars was not really, really good stuff.
It didn't seem like his style even.
Well,
Yeah.
that is true. He had bad material and he delivered it badly. So, all right. But at some point, it's his show. At some point, he's got to say, hey, this stinks.
Yeah.
Come back with better stuff. I'm not going to go with this, right? I mean,
that's why
you can't totally blame the writers.
Exactly.
No. But I also think that's why Amy Poehler and Tina Fey do so well, because they're comedy writers.
Yeah.
Like, they can spot, like, Neil Patrick Harris.
He's a sitcom guy.
Talented
but yeah.
guy. Song and dance man, situation comedy. But he's not a writer. Amy Poehler and Tina Fey are comedy writers. So that's why I think they do so well. They can spot a stinker.
Yeah. Well, let's put it this way. Don't think he'll be invited back. Yeah, right.
He's going to join that David Letterman club.
Wasn't as bad as was it James Franco that year?
Oh my God,
that wasn't that bad.
I completely forgot all about that.
Yeah.
So, speaking of song and dance men or players, there are a lot of them on the Republican side for 2016, Jessica. You've been following them. And it seems lately we've had like kind of one a week sort of have their chance to strut on stage, you know. A couple of weeks ago, it was Chris Christie.
Right.
Who strutted on stage and bombed, really.
Yeah, I mean, it was his moment. It was his moment after Mitt Romney said he wasn't going to run. It opened up sort of this Northeast Corridor fundraising, and he went over to London. Seemed like he was, going to bolster his foreign policy credentials, which is really sort of the Achilles heel of governors right now.
Yeah.
He needed to sort of bolster that, especially as we're, in so many foreign entanglements and things. And the measles question, I was still struck by that one because, like, if anyone was going to stand up and say, like, no, like, go get your kids vaccinated, like, stupid or something. It was going to be the guy that yelled, like, get off the beach and, like, quarantine the Ebolaners. Like, he's the tough talking governor. And I think it just showed how cautious he's going to be. And I had a column in my column in the Hill, I wrote, like, this is what people liked about Chris Christie is that he was like the no nonsense guy. And if he loses that, like, what does he have to run on? He's like, people like that he is just this like no nonsense, like straight talker and things too. That's what kind of shot him to prominence. And if he goes back and is trying to be this, I mean, everyone at their heart, if you're in politics, is like a calculating politician. But like if he becomes too calculated, I think it's just, how does he differentiate himself and stuff too?
So he had a bad week and we haven't heard from him since, really.
Yeah. And then, there's this pension thing today, the judge ruling that his pension plan violated law and stuff. And so, he's got to do something to redeem himself. And later this week, where all eyes are going to be here in D.C. again, well, technically over in Maryland at National Harbor for the annual CPAC convention. He is going to that. A couple of years ago, he wasn't invited to that. This isn't, his usual kind of bread and butter crowd, but he is going. So we'll see what kind of response he gets from these very conservative activists and things too. He did okay when he spoke at a similar forum back in Iowa last month, the Iowa Freedom Forum. He did okay. He didn't, fall on his face or anything there. He wasn't the best received probably of the candidates and stuff, but he did what he needed to do. I think that's sort of what he needs to do here. But it's just, if Jeb is getting the establishment support, if Walker's kind of like the new guy there, and then you've got, Ted Cruz and Paul and things too getting the Tea Party support, it's just becoming increasingly hard to see like where Chris Christie fits in. Like, what is his niche?
Right. Now, this week was Scott Walker's week, it seems. And just a footnote on Christie, too, is that this was the National Governors Conference this week. They're all in town. He, last year, head of the Republican National Governors, he didn't make a ripple this week in town. I mean,
you barely heard him if he was. He was here, but didn't. Yeah, maybe right now no headlines are better than bad headlines. Right. Probably he needs to maybe kind of regroup and stuff too. But I think it clearly had a lot of his donors. I think and things spooked. There's people that are behind him. They're going to be behind him one way or the other. But he's really kind of missing his moment to carve out. I think other people are certainly better seizing the spotlight and making better headlines.
So now Scott Walker had his turn this week. He also did not have a great week.
He didn't. I think it proves that the scrutiny is tough. Scott Walker, he from that Iowa forum, he emerged as I think the biggest winner. Everyone was talking about his great speech. He was making a lot of inroads, hiring a lot of great staff, and seemed like he was maybe the guy who was kind of going to bridge that gap. Like, he can talk to the Tea Party crowds. They like him. They like what he did against the unions there in Wisconsin. But he's also, the establishment likes him very much too. He's won 3 now tough races there. And, but then he goes, I tell you, presidential candidates don't go to London. It never ends well.
I know. Yeah.
It does not end well when you go across the pond. So he goes to London and he's asked about evolution. He even says, if you're going to say, you can punt on it, but you can say it without saying, I'm going to punt on it. But that's what he did. He literally said, I'm going to punt on this. Don't give them that.
That is something politicians should not be asked to take a stand on.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Right.
You're going to be asked to take a stand on anything. Anything is fair game.
So then he comes back and he has a little dinner party in New York.
Yeah, where Giuliani,
crashes
is bashing the president over there, and he really kind of stands silent. He says he kind of he doesn't condemn him, and I think
his Sister Soldier moment.
Yeah. It's this, and we have a story up on the Hill. Cameron Joseph, one of my reporters, does is that this is becoming a litmus test for Republican presidential candidates. It's how you're going to answer these questions. I think they're going to be faced with this tough idea is that do you say these things that clearly the Republican base is still very skeptical of the president. Whether it's his religion, whether it's his background, whether it's his patriotism, or do you dismiss the questions and say of course I believe the president loves his country, but I disagree with his policies, which is a perfectly reasonable answer. That's why we have two different parties in the country. Like, you can respect someone, but you can respectfully disagree with them. And that's what we saw. I think Marco Rubio really did it best. He sort of, he got a little dig in at the media and said, you all don't go ask Democrats every time Joe Biden says something crazy. God knows Joe Biden says a lot of crazy things. But, of course, I think the president loves his country, but I just disagree with his policy. So I think that's the right way to handle that. Walker didn't do that. And then even later on, as though he didn't learn enough from that answer, the Washington Post asked him at the NGA conference, do you believe Obama is a Christian? Well, I don't know. And then his spokeswoman had to call back and, clarify, well, of course he thinks he is. Well, that's not what he said the first time.
No.
It was clearly a trying to save face moment. And, if he just said...
They attacked it as a gotcha question. First of all, Dan Balls, who's one of the best and most experienced political reporters in the country, doesn't do gotcha questions, and it's not a gotcha question.
Yeah.
Do you believe the president's a Christian? Yes or no?
Yeah. These are questions they're going to be asked, and I think it was Robert Gibbs on Meet the Press this weekend said, these are the easy questions. Like, what's going to happen when you get to the hard questions, when you get further down into the spotlight? So, I think Scott Walker, he hasn't been as much on a national stage. He hasn't traveled to all the states as much as these people have. Senators are used to, I think, the national media. I think that's why you saw Marco Rubio really kind of did deftly handle this. But Walker, not used to the national press. He's going to, he kind of turned Sarah Palin a little bit there, saying, these are gotcha questions and stuff, too. He was fundraising off of it, which can get you lots of money. But, ultimately, you've got to answer these questions. And I don't think that I don't see them as gotcha questions. I think these are really, questions of, do you believe what kind of relationship would you I think it's revealing. What kind of relationship would you have with Democrats? What kind of relationship would you have with the president? Love him or hate him, like he is the leader. And, it's an office that commands respect and things too.
Now, meanwhile, Jeb Bush just keeps rolling along and racking up the money that is putting everybody else way behind in the dust. If you haven't already done so, I don't know whether we tweeted this out, Peter. You have to check out the photo that Jeb Bush tweeted.
We haven't yet, but
for his 41st wedding anniversary.
Yeah.
Tweets a little gift to his wife. It's a picture of them 41 years ago, I think on their wedding day. What a head of hair.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
it looks like my hair at that age. Although mine was a little longer, I think, even than his. But
It's very 70s-ish, yeah, the photo is. But did you see the story behind the photo?
No.
Oh, it's fascinating. So this is the only photo of their wedding that exists.
Because?
The only photo, because they let his brother Marvin Bush take the photos, and when he was developing them, he mixed them with a Fred Zappo concert or something and messed it up. So this is the only photo that exists because someone had taken a Kodak photo and something.
No
so this is
way.
the only photo of their wedding.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah.
There it is, yeah.
That's awesome.
All right. Can anybody stop the Bush juggernaut? Jessica Taylor here with us from The Hill, thehill.com. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job, and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand, and they don't get it, and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university? And,
yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Will Bill O'Reilly survive? Do you care? Hadas Gold will join us in the next half hour to talk about that weighty topic. Right now, we're talking all things political with Jessica Taylor, campaign editor for The Hill. So while Christie and Scott Walker were sort of stumbling, Jeb keeps rolling along the way I see it, huh?
I mean, he has, I think, a good plan in place. It seems like he's making these speeches in blue areas, and he's laying out his plans. Whether it was he talked about his economic plans, and then he did his foreign policy plans and stuff too. So I mean, he's positioning himself as the front runner. He's acting like the front runner. He hasn't made any major stumbles yet. Again, going back to CPAC this week, he is coming to CPAC. This is. If it's not Chris Christie's crowd, this is definitely not Jeb Bush's crowd.
Yeah, right.
With him supporting immigration reform and Common Core. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he is received there. Probably not that well. So how he handles that, I think, will be crucial. But I think foreign policy is sort of the biggest question right now for him. He laid out his speech. It was a good speech, I think, the one that he gave in Chicago, but, clearly trying to distance himself from his father and his brother in some regards. But then you go back and he's hired essentially the same advisors from both White Houses and stuff too. So I think it raises the question of really how different will he be on some of these if he's turning to the same people for advice and for things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And meanwhile, he's raising more money than anybody else.
He is, and he's
far more.
He is. We haven't seen the first quarter fundraising support yet, so we'll see mid-April where that comes out. But I will say he's doing very wise things with it too. He made his PAC, his Right to Rise PAC, made their first donations a couple of weeks ago. They donated almost exclusively to members in South Carolina and Iowa and New Hampshire, to all of those state parties and stuff too. So he's kind of you help me, I'll help you.
Jessica, thanks so much for coming in.
Yep, thanks.
Great to read you.
Yep.
Great to see you.
Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the area.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you come.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan, big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is The Bill Press Show at 33 minutes after the hour. On this Tuesday, February 24. And you know how it is with the media. We love nothing so much as talking about ourselves. So we're going to indulge a little bit here. Except we're not talking so much about ourselves as about Bill O'Reilly, who now, it appears, has a Brian Williams moment. If we're talking media, we're talking Hadas Gold from Politico, there with her buddy Dylan Byers, who fled the coop for California, right?
Yeah. I don't blame him on days like today. Are you kidding me?
I don't blame him either. But it's nice to see you, Hadas. Thanks for coming back in.
Of course, thanks for having me.
You look very good today. I mean, what's going on here? Something special in your life these days?
I'm turning older.
Oh, whoa.
No, well, it happens to all of us, right?
No.
When? Today's your birthday?
No, tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
So I still have 24 hours left to be 26 years old.
Oh. God, you are getting old. Well, you know, how did we know? How did the word is already around town that tomorrow's your birthday? Did you realize that? Yeah.
No.
Let's have a celebration.
You better be ready for this, and people will be popping out of the walls just to say happy birthday to you. For example,
this is your birthday song. It doesn't last too long. Hey!
There you go.
Speaker Painter. Up so early this morning just to say happy birthday.
What a sweetheart.
Isn't that great? Yeah. You can stop by on your way. Leave here. You can stop by the Capitol and thank him. Yeah,
You'll be so happy to see me.
Yeah. So what is up with Bill O'Reilly? First of all, so as I say, he has a Brian Williams moment. How did this whole thing get started? And then let's talk about where it goes from here.
This whole thing started with a Mother Jones piece maybe a week ago, where Mother Jones found that Bill O'Reilly may have similarly kind of exaggerated a situation of quote-unquote war reporting. Bill O'Reilly used to work for CBS News. I think people forget he used to actually be a real correspondent. And he was covering the Falklands, or Malvinas if you're from Argentina, war in Buenos Aires for CBS News, along with the big team, with Bob Schieffer, with all of these big guys. And he has said in his book, and he has said in other kind of conversations, including with Marvin Kalb, that he was in a violent riot where he saw people shot in front of him.
It was in a war zone.
In a war zone, first of all.
And then he was in this Right.
Yes, and that he was and the Falklands Islands, for those that aren't familiar, is about 1,200 miles off of the coast of Argentina.
Mhm.
Very contested place. British and the Argentines fought over it.
Right.
The Brits won. But in Buenos Aires, there was no active war zone, but there were, after they lost the war, there were riots in the streets and protests. So Bill O'Reilly did cover those things, and he said that he saw people shot down. He said that he saved a cameraman when he got hit and pulled him to safety, and that his fellow news crew men refused to leave their hotel and didn't leave. And Mother Jones says that they found that that's not true, that the protests were, protesty, but not exactly, full-on war zone crazy riots, that his fellow CBS News colleagues were actually out reporting, and all these, former CBS News colleagues are coming out and saying, hey, this isn't true, and this has turned into a new story in the media of a journalist exaggerating.
Right. So Bill O'Reilly's response is not the Brian Williams approach to apologize, right?
Yeah,
or
it's
even
screw
a
you.
pseudo-apologize. It's go on the attack.
Yeah,
right?
He is going on the full force offensive, and that's very much a Bill O'Reilly thing to do. I don't think we should have expected anything else from him. He isn't a journalist, he's a talking head. He's a talk show host. I mean, when he invites people on his show, even when he says that they're from the other side, he doesn't invite them on his show to really hear the other side. He invites them on the show so he can attack them.
Yell at them.
And he can yell at them. And so he knows also that this isn't probably going to bring him down because it's not the worst thing in the world. Like Brian Williams potentially offended veterans, and you don't offend veterans. And this is some foreign war and a really weird war in Argentina that Argentina had with England.
Yeah.
It's about a lot of semantics, not like I was on a helicopter that was shot down. It's, including some things like, yes, there was a New York Times report that a policeman had fired shots in the air above the protesters. Bill O'Reilly was reading that out loud on one of his shows, but failed to mention that it was in the air over the protesters. He just cut it off.
He just left that phrase out. Right.
But this is also part of Bill O'Reilly's war against the liberal media. This is what he's doing. I mean, he just threatened a New York Times reporter last night saying, if I don't like your coverage, I'm going to come after you with everything I've got. That's Bill O'Reilly.
And he said, you can take this as a threat.
Yeah, he knew exactly what he was doing, and he knew that she would print it. And this is part of his persona. It's part of firing up his base, his fans, who are going to go after. And he's got millions. He's not going anywhere. He is the top-rated show on the top-rated network on basic cable. So he's fine.
Yeah.
There are a lot of ways to call and threaten reporters. One of them, usually isn't. You could take that as a threat.
Yeah, right. So just to give our listeners and our viewers a sample, if they haven't already heard it this morning, this is Bill, right, as you mentioned, he goes on the attack. So this is his first comment on the Mother Jones story, and he just lays into David Corn.
Mm-hmm.
This man, 56-year-old David Corn, who works for the far-left magazine Mother Jones, smeared me, your humble correspondent, yesterday, saying I had fabricated some war reporting. Mother Jones, which is low circulation, considered by many the bottom rung of journalism in America. Basically, David Corn, a liar, says I exaggerated situations in the Falklands War and the Salvadoran War. Here's the truth. Everything I've said about my reportorial career, everything, is true.
It's just man. Attacks the magazine, low circulation, bottom rung of the journalism ladder. David Corn, he's 56. He's a lot younger than Bill O'Reilly. And, he's a liar. He's got
gutter snipe. That's what he told Dylan.
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
Right. On and on. And everything I said is true. There are, however, other even CBS reporters who were there in Buenos Aires who said, he's not telling the truth at all, right?
Right. Yeah, they've come forward and they said, I was out there on the street with them, or, there was, and he's invited them actually to go on his show, and several of them has said no because they said They said, I know why he wants me to go on his show. He wants to attack me as well. So
And no protesters were killed in these riots.
I'm not entirely.
The New York Times reports this morning they couldn't find
no
any.
reports couldn't find anything. I think I think the New York Times also spoke, or no, maybe CNN spoke with the Buenos Aires Herald, the former editor there, who said that they didn't remember or couldn't recall any deaths during the protest.
Right.
Yeah.
So and the reporters. So then, Bill O'Reilly attacks his former colleagues, right? The one guy, Eric Engberg, he said he had a reputation for being, what was it, room service Eric, they called him, right? Never left the hotel.
Yeah.
And I was out in the street, right, in the heart of the action.
Yeah, and Bill O'Reilly has also said certain things like his stuff was taken and like Bob Schieffer took credit for his stuff because it was all packaged together, but that's just how broadcast journalism works. Like if you have a team of correspondents, all of your footage is going to go into one package. Bob Schieffer's the senior correspondent, so he's going to do the package.
One of our callers earlier in the program today asked this question, which is good. If Bill O'Reilly was out there with his camera crew in the middle of these protests and all these people were killed, where's the video of all the bodies? It's
I mean, Bill O'Reilly, I mean, I don't know what Bill O'Reilly would say, but CBS News actually, I think yesterday posted video from
They
it.
did, yeah. And it doesn't show anybody.
It doesn't show anybody dead or
So what
anything.
happens to him now? How's this thing going to end out? Is he going to get suspended for 6 months with no pay?
No, I mean, probably not. I think right now for Fox, it does not bother them at all. For Roger Ailes, it's like a gnat in his ear or
They
something.
probably love it. Are you kidding?
More people are going to watch. More liberals that would never watch Fox News are now going to watch because they want to see maybe Bill O'Reilly apologize or implode. And so Roger Ailes A, cares about loyalty. And then B, cares about the brand. And then journalistic, the high ideals of journalism that they teach you at Columbia University are, not necessarily there or in the top 3. And Bill O'Reilly's very loyal. He's very profitable for Fox and for News Corp. Nothing's going to happen. And like I said, these allegations, I mean, Bill O'Reilly, he survived that really awful sexual assault case that was settled. So we don't know, like there's no guilt or not guilty or anything. But like that was weird and like horrible. And he survived that just fine. So I think that in this type of situation, unless it gets to the point where his colleagues in Fox News within News Corporation, if Rupert Murdoch gets uncomfortable, then maybe something would happen. But maybe, I'm saying very much maybe. I don't really think we're going to see as Brian Williams 6-month suspension.
No. I don't think anything will happen to David Corn or Emily Steele either, other than just getting slammed by Bill O'Reilly.
Is that a threat? It sounded like a threat.
Hadas Gold here from Politico, talking all things media. And when we come back, MSNBC, big changes going on MSNBC. What's that all about? Join us. Your comments on Bill O'Reilly, welcome here. Do you think anything's going to happen to him? 866, or should, 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished when they incarcerate their children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
And here we are at 12 minutes now before the top of the hour with birthday girl Hadas Gold here from Politico. You're going to milk this for all it's worth here. It's starting today. Probably through the weekend, right?
Yeah, of
At
course.
least through the weekend.
Of course.
Yeah.
Birthday week. Birthday week is a thing.
If your birthday falls on a Wednesday, you know, you have to use the whole week.
It's my birthday week.
Yeah.
It's totally acceptable.
I'm all for birthday week. Right. So there are some changes at MSNBC.
Right.
Yesterday, so Ronan Farrow is going away. Joy Reid is going away. I mean, they do what they always do. I mean, look, I've been fired by network, and what they do is then they keep you on as a contributor for a year or so, right? Pretend you're still part of the family. So they're going to each have some allegedly ongoing role with the network, but their shows are disappearing. Yesterday, Dave Zirin, our good friend, sports editor for The Nation magazine, was a guest on Joy Reid's show and lamented the fact the show is going away. Here he is.
I feel like I want to say in this uncomfortable space, and I'm sorry if this is rude or anything, but how disappointed I am in MSNBC that this show is not going to be on the air. I think it's a horrible blow for people who love you and love your show and look at you and think to themselves, gee, maybe I don't have to be a lying thug like Bill O'Reilly to get my own show. I can be a kind, good person and achieve on that basis. You'll be fine. I know that. You're a talented, great person, but I weep for people who look to you as an example.
All right. Now,
great. I'm glad we've elevated the discourse.
Right. Now, having said that, I mean, the shows weren't connecting, right? They weren't getting the ratings, so that's why they're gone.
I mean, MSNBC on a whole has been really sliding in the ratings, and these were early afternoon shows or late afternoon shows.
Tough time. And you're putting someone like Ronan Farrow, which I think Phil Griffith originally thought that he was going to really connect to the millennials. He's young, he's cool, he's got a great Twitter following, but like what 26-year-old is, other than me, is watching Ronan Farrow, at 1 in the afternoon? Not a lot. And his ratings at some points were like dismal. They were like 26,000 or something like that, which is just like, I think maybe like 26,000 in the demo or something, but it was just low, like just not acceptable for cable networks. I mean, the talk of Ronan's show being canceled has been going on for 6 months at least, I'd say.
Day 2.
Yeah. And it was, it's MSNBC is now having this moment where they need to really refigure themselves. Lloyd Grove in the Daily Beast said that he talked to an executive who said they're moving away from being the left-leaning network.
I saw that headline as I was going to ask you. So that means that they were trying to be the alternative to Fox, the left's answer to Fox, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have they come to the point where they think that doesn't work and they have to try what?
It works, I think.
Back to the middle?
I think it works when they have a good foil, when they have a Bush administration to talk about, when they have frustrated progressive audiences who want somewhere to go. When you have President Obama and everything, and also when you have the young, more progressive types don't tend to watch TV as much as the older conservatives do watch TV. I think that's the difference that you have. And we're going to see MSNBC, in my opinion, go more towards the CNN model. We've already seen them starting to do some of more of these shows, like these documentary shows. And, MSNBC had been doing this for a while. They have like these lockup shows and whatever. But they just hired Tom Colicchio to be their food correspondent. And I talked to him, and it sounds like a very interesting show, but it sounds very general interest, both food policy, but also like everything, like environmentalism, maybe a little bit of cooking in there if they're talking about healthy eating. And he's an activist. He's part of the Food Policy Action Network. He lobbies on the Hill. And I asked him, how are you going to be a advocate or a correspondent? He said he's going to be both. And I think it's going to be moving into this much more personality-driven, broader focus, not just politics and progressive politics.
Any other shows that you know of that are about to go on the chopping block?
I mean, there are many rumors. We were talking about Al Sharpton's show earlier. We were talking about what's going to happen with that. Chris Hayes, a lot of people are debating that something might change with him. I don't think that he's going to leave the network necessarily. He'll probably go through a better fate, maybe just change the timing of his show. Rachel Maddow will probably move up a little bit in the hours. They'll keep Rachel. But, I mean, a lot of big changes are coming their way. Phil Griff is the type of president who doesn't, from what I understand from people I've spoken to who work with him, doesn't necessarily like sit and plan out strategy, 10 years ahead. He is the type of person that like throws stuff at the wall and sees what sticks. So I don't think even at MSNBC they have an idea what this is going to look like 2 years from now. Whereas CNN's Jeff Zucker, I think, does.
Yeah. Huh. I just was thinking maybe I'll have to call Pat Buchanan today, and that. Those early afternoon hours, I remember a show that used to fill it pretty well from 1 to 3, Buchanan and Press. We owned the early afternoon hours, yeah. If we were still there, we'd still be kicking ass, I'm telling you. All right, Pat, are you ready to go? Suit up. They need us at MSNBC. Hadas, so good to see you today. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Great to see you, as always. You can find her at Politico.com, and we'll be right back and button things up.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, How have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment, and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
All right, you got it. That's a damn good 3 hours, if I have to say so myself.
Damn straight.
Yeah, if you didn't like that show, come back for another one tomorrow. That's the answer. Yes, indeed. Hey, folks, thanks so much for being with us today. Have a great Tuesday, and remember, we'll have a lot to talk about again tomorrow morning, so come on back and see us bright and early. We'll be looking for you.
This is the Bill Press Show.